Hi, this is Steve Lentini, and I'm your host for the podcast, Different Thinking for Different Times, Season 3, Episode 15. First, I'd like to say thank you to all my listeners from now 19 countries around the world. I'm grateful. And I'm hopeful that you're thinking about what I talk about here and experimenting for yourself that it makes a difference in your life. Never follow anyone else's journey. As has been said by Martin Buber, Emmett Fox, and many other sages throughout time. In fact, I'm working on a book called Sage Advice, Gifts Left from the Ages is my tentative subtitle. Wisdom left us from the ages. And so Lao Tzu is one of those people that I think about when I write about the sage advice. And here's a piece that Lao Tzu wrote. Wise men don't need to prove their point. Men who need to prove their point aren't wise. And of course, he lived in the 6th century BC, so today you could easily say wise people don't need to prove their point. And people who need to prove their point aren't wise. And that's small-mindedness. As I've discussed, being right makes others wrong, and we can see so many examples of it in today's society. In fact, our leaders don't model the kind of behavior that they'd like to see from society because our leaders point fingers and even stretch the truth or tell lies to make the other side wrong. Such to the point that it's hard to understand what the truth really is when it comes to politics. But I try not to engage in that except when it's my time to vote. I vote, and that's what I can do. I don't work to spend any of my energy, my working capital, my life capital, trying to change the minds of others. And even in the podcast, small-minded thinking, limited thinking, finite thinking, each person has it. I still have it. And what I encourage people to do is begin to notice it. Experiment for yourself. Where can you model what created this miracle we live in, this infinite miracle that even modern day physicists don't understand? In fact, a few weeks ago, physicists found muons, M-U-O-N-S, if you Google it, acting in unexpected ways, which had me chuckling. It had me laughing because, of course, we're all made of all those atomic particles, a collection of all of them, and we all act in unexpected ways. Our families do, our children do, our work, our coworkers do, our bosses do, our politicians do. There isn't any walk of life that's not impacted by unexpected actions, right? Like the muons, acting in unexpected ways. Recently discovered, if you Google it, in collider experiments, super collider experiments. So to continue the journey of rising above small-minded thinking, just ask yourself, is this small-minded? Because when I left my body from intensive care on November 18th, 2002, I was still there without my body. There was still me. But none of this small-minded thinking was with me. Nothing from here, as I like to say, is there in what's next. And what's next is one with the infinite. At least that's what I experienced. And only the now on steroids, as I like to say. That's where the divine exists. People go searching for the God or the goddess, and here it is in the divine. And the reason that we miss it is because it doesn't match our picture in the moment, and then we rail against it. If you get a chance, Listen to some of the work by Eckhart Tolle or Deepak Chopra, Wayne Dyer, and many others. Ram Dass, talking about being in the now. And the reason we reject a lot of the now is because there's situations and people that bug us, that don't agree with us, that look different from us. And it's to overcome that because on the other side, by the way, there were no religions. There were no sexes. There were no races. There were no nationalities. Nothing from here was there. And that's where the infinite resides. We're broken down into all our differences so we can learn and grow by accepting the path that others choose. Each of our journeys are as different as our fingerprints. There's over 7 billion people on the earth, and there are no fingerprints alike. No two fingerprints alike. The same with our journeys. And then when we can get over people acting in unexpected ways, like muons, like atomic particles do, when we can learn to overcome that, we realize other people's journeys are none of our business. I get a kick out of people trying to change others' minds or making them reacting strongly, making them wrong because they have one view or another that's different from theirs. And certainly judgments that are small-minded are the work for us to overcome. And there's all kinds of small-minded judgments about other people's actions. The obvious, of course, are their skin colors and races, nationalities that are different and look different. That's something to overcome because the one thing we all do share is the same blood. There's only one race, the human race, except in small-minded thinking. And of course, the media tries to break it down into one race being right and other races being wrong, or one race being wrong and the need for everyone to get over their color. But that's true for all of us. That anything that's small-minded is our job to overcome it. And it's even translates into sexual preferences and people being upset with who someone wants to spend their life with. Truly, none of our business. And it's an expression of the infinite where we are all one, where we return to pure consciousness, we're all one. And life itself was created by something miraculous, something amazing, something infinite, far bigger than our own little acorn brains, as I call them. I mean, after all, this is infinite. Look at all the varieties of fish, birds, insects, animals, mammals, microscopic differences, little particles that are one cell, or dust mites that we can't see, right? There's so many things smaller than us that we can't see. And Lisa Randall, a physicist, in her work said that there's things so large we can't see them. And as I've mentioned before, I have a coach that says to me, do ants know they live next to a bridge abutment? That could be humans. So the purpose of my podcast each week is to challenge people to overcome their small-minded thinking and to notice, where does it show up? Under what circumstances? What kind of people? Because those are the places where your greatest teachers appear. Because your greatest teachers help you overcome yourself. And the mastery of oneself is truly mastering life. If you understand others, you're smart, Lao Tzu said. If you understand yourself, you're illuminated. If you overcome others, you're powerful. But if you overcome yourself, you have strength. Fascinating, right? Somebody from the 6th century had that inner knowledge that our job is to overcome ourselves. But don't take my word for it. Prove it to yourself. See if it makes a difference in your life when you become more accepting and in the moment. Instead of railing against others, trying to change others' minds, is there some place that if you're so upset and angry with how someone thinks differently than you, then are you the same as they are? Are you the same as what you're accusing them of, being intolerant and angry? That's an interesting point of view, right? If you're intolerant of others who you think are intolerant, they're showing you your own intolerance. And that's really the work in this life, is to become one with the infinite. And I find it laughable or funny. There's some humor in the idea that we think like God does, that the infinite, the divine, the goddess, the Brahma, the Buddha, the Abraham, the Mohammed, the Christ consciousness would have us all descending into small-minded thinking and wanting vengeance and anger. And yes, it's been written about in many of the so-called holy books. And somehow we think that the divine stopped communicating with us thousands of years ago, that life itself stopped developing with what the messages were that were written thousands of years ago. But if it sounds like small-minded thinking, I challenge it, because it's not what I experienced. Only the lives I had touched, only the good I had done, all those I helped flash before me in my life review. The good that you do is somehow etched onto the fabric of time, and you won't get to see that until you have a moment similar to mine, leaving your body. I hope it's not during this podcast. I wish you a long life. But I can tell you on that day, November 18th, I hadn't thought of dying, even though I was in intensive care. It didn't occur to me. So spend some time pondering whether this message has any value to you. And again, prove it to yourself. Don't take my word for it. If I ever say on one of these podcasts that I found the way, run away and maybe reach out to me and see if I've regained my sanity. Your journey is yours. Others is none of your business. Prove it to yourself. Manage yourself. Accept others. Bless others. Challenge your own small-minded thinking. Others' small-minded thinking, if it bothers you, is just a reflection of your own small-minded thinking. So model this limitless creation, this energy, this life force, this God, the goddess, the divine. Model that infinite life force with limitless possibility thinking, not small-minded thinking. If you have any questions or you'd like to appear on the show, when I say appear, I would interview you and record it and then post it in one of my upcoming sessions. One of the upcoming podcasts, you can email me, Steve at SteveLentini.com, Steve at SteveLentini.com. And thank you for all the offers. I've been getting emails of millions of dollars waiting for me. All I have to do is send my financial information. I thank you for all of that. And I know that it's part of the society today, people reaching out to try to take advantage of others. That's certainly small-minded thinking. And if you think that I don't know it, then that's really small-minded thinking. I wish you a great journey between now and the next podcast, and a long life. And when you do journey into what's next, I encourage you to live in the moment, live fully, live life, and know that death is not the word really for an infinite being. The word we should be using is we go from this to that, from this to what's next. And I understand some of the societies who cry when babies are born, knowing what we'll go through in this life to learn and grow, and why they celebrate when people pass into what's next. We're one with something amazing, and we can learn to get a glimpse of that by celebrating in the now, being in the moment, and recognizing life as feedback, and that the universal life force is actually knocking on our door in every moment. There's never a time where the divine is absent from this existence, which points out to be in the now and learn what the gift is when things don't match your picture, when things are difficult. Remember what Eckhart Tolle says: when you fight life, life fights you. But again, prove that to yourself. And thank you for listening.